Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we are joined by the owner of Atilis Gym in Belmar, New Jersey, Ian Smith. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. I've kind of followed your story from day one. I've seen you all over the place. I follow you on Instagram. But for people that maybe don't know about your story, you're a small business owner, the owner of Atilis Gym, as I just said, in New Jersey. The virus hit last March or so. Tell people that don't know about your story exactly what happened, because it's rather shocking.
All right. So first of all, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. And we'll give you the shortened version because it's been a very long year. Today is actually the 1-year anniversary from when we reopened our doors against the coronavirus lockdowns.
Wow.
Everybody knows the story, 14 days to flatten the curve. And 14 days very quickly turned into 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then at about 6 weeks, my business partner and I, Frank, we made a decision that we were going to reopen. We didn't stop coming to work. We were at work every day. We actually had just bought the business. It was a failing gym. We bought it 8 months prior to the lockdown. And we kind of put all of our eggs in this basket. And we bought a dumpster fire of a project, but we put everything we had into it, and the turnaround that we had was very rapid, and we had a successful business going. So there was plenty of work to still be done, so we kept ourselves busy, but we treated coronavirus as if it was our job. We studied everything that there was to know from day one, the science about how it was spread and how it was treated and how to keep people safe. We looked to every source possible, including the CDC, WHO, PubMed, and we also started to pay attention to the politics because it was hard not to when 11 days into the shutdown, Congress passed the single largest economic stimulus bill in history to the tune of $2.6 trillion. That was a red flag for us because in that bill was a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense, so we were on high alert right away. And as the time passed, it was very clear that whether or not this was intended to be political, it had turned political. And Frank and I refused to be a casualty of a political agenda that really had nothing to do with us. So we decided 6 weeks in that we were going to reopen and that we were going to do so very publicly. We knew that we would have some pushback from the governor and from the probably local authorities. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't just get swept under the rug and squashed like a bug. So we made an announcement that we were going to reopen. And it was a video that I put up on my Instagram. It was about 8 minutes long. And we explained the who, what, where, and why, how we were going to keep people safe, why we chose to do it, and all the details. And it was kind of right message at the right time. It went viral for what it was worth back then, and it caught the eye of Tucker Carlson. And 1 week before we reopened, I went on national television and I informed the country that I was going to reopen, that we were going to reopen, and we did 1 year ago today. We didn't know what to expect, but when we reopened the doors that morning, Pete Hegseth was out on the front step waiting for us. With a national interview, and we had a parking lot full of supporters, and most importantly, there was a line wrapped around the building of our members who were dying to get back into the gym for any number of reasons. So that was it. Day one, we were met with resistance right away, and then it just continued to escalate from there. We got citations on day one, citations on day two. Our members were then cited. One of our members was arrested. And it just really continued to escalate from there. Day three, we got a health department shutdown without anybody from the health department ever stepping foot in our building or even contacting us, even though we put out our safety protocol, which went so far above and beyond what big business was required to do that it would be laughable if they tried to shut us down. And we did that by design. So we had a health department shutdown. We ignored it. We kept going. And then came the fun. Judge Robert Lugie of the Mercer County Superior Court, who is pretty much Governor Murphy's lapdog here in New Jersey, hit us with a court order to shut down. They locked our doors forcibly 1 week in. A little bit later, we wound up getting those locks removed because we do have an essential business inside. We agreed to play nice during the meantime while we had a federal case in the works against Governor Murphy. We were dragging about half of the gym outside every day, about 50,000 pounds worth of equipment, benches, barbells, you name it, out into the parking lot in the middle of June. That day in court never came. The federal judge decided to abstain from the ruling and said that it was a state matter. So we stopped playing nice and we opened up back inside. And ever since then, it's been a battle with this judge who just pretty much does whatever Governor Murphy wants him to. He's the same judge that has given Governor Murphy every request to continue his power here in the state of New Jersey. Governor Murphy is one of the only governors who has not lost a single COVID case. The churches have been unsuccessful, restaurants have been unsuccessful, townships have been unsuccessful because they all run through the same judge who just so happens to be up for tenure this year. That
Interesting.
Paints a picture of the judicial system here in New Jersey.
Well, I want to go back for a minute, Ian. Look, I think the bottom line here is people saw what was happening to you. And I know as I watched it, it seemed crazy that this was something that would happen in the United States of America, that, you know, we all got it. We all were willing to do whatever was necessary and whatever made sense in order to protect those that were most vulnerable. I think, you know, the fact that you just said you moved your gym outside, I don't know how much farther you can actually go. How many of these places were opening up outside? I know there were a lot of these like spin gyms and stuff that were just setting up the bikes outside 6 feet apart. You're outdoors, for goodness sake. I mean, I don't know how much better you can do, but the fact that they continued to kind of come at you, you ended up yourself arrested for defying the lockdown order, and you had to break into your own gym at one point. Is that right?
Yes. So once we resumed going back inside, we had a contempt of court order against us, and we were found guilty of contempt of court because the court order said don't go inside, and we did anyway. At that point, they were coming back to lock our doors once again, and Frank and I vowed that would never happen, that the state would not just come in and lock us out of our private property ever again. So we decided that we were going to take the doors off of the hinges, because if there's no doors, you can't lock our doors. And we camped out inside of our gym for 40 days. We opened it up as a 24-hour facility. We slept here. We slept in shifts. Our family members and volunteers came and worked the desk for us at times. And then eventually the county sheriffs came in and arrested us for resisting arrest and a bunch of other nonsensical charges. But they only arrested us just so they could pull us out of the building and board up the doors. And the funny thing is that they thought that was going to stop us. So we took a day or two off, and then we came back in and we kicked our doors in, turned the lights on, turned the music back on, and there was a crowd already in the parking lot waiting, and we resumed normal operations. At which point we were held in contempt of court again, and that's when the daily fines began. And we've been accumulating fines ever since, to the tune of $15,497.76 per day for every day that we violate the court order.
If I understand it correctly, last December you were given more than 60 citations for staying open, totaling a fine of more than $1.2 million. Is that right?
So the way the fines work, there's fines associated with the 80 citations. We're up to 80 now. Oh. About 40 or so a piece. And we also have about 4 criminal charges each as well. There's a $1,000 fine associated with those, but the daily fine is $15,000 per day. The way that works is the state brings a motion in front of the judge for X amount of days, and then they're granted. So they can fine us for whatever they want at this point, but they bring it sort of forward in blocks of days, or 8 or 10 at a time, and the judge grants it. And he's approved fines of upwards of, I think, $350,000 so far, with millions on the back end at any time if they want to come through with those fines.
So have you had any cases of COVID linked to your gym?
As of this morning, we have 191,000 unique visits to the facility with a paper trail for all of that. We have our own contact tracing system. We have records of every single person who's been in the building, when they came in, what their temperature was, and a whole bunch of other questions as well for every single person. and we have had not a single outbreak linked to our facility
Wow.
since we reopened last year.
So you're at over 80 citations. You're potentially facing millions more dollars in fines. Dozens of people that work with you. You have been arrested. You're facing all of this, but why are you still staying open? I think a lot of people in your shoes would have just said, you know what, it's not worth it at this point. I might as well just give it up. But I think you've kind of come to stand as like a symbol to people in a lot of ways, Ian. So what's the story? Why are you still open?
Well, Frank and I made a promise to each other when we reopened that we were going to see this all the way through. We knew that we were on the right side of it. And we knew it was going to be a nasty battle. We had no idea it would be this nasty. But we made that promise to each other that we weren't going to sell ourselves short, because we knew that we were on the right side of this, that what was happening to the American people, particularly the American middle class and small businesses, was absolutely abhorrent. Big business was allowed to profit at record levels with laughable safety measures. And they've villainized small businesses and middle America as the cause of the spread of the virus. And that's just not true. The science has never been shown, nor can they show it, because multiple people all around the country in court cases have asked for it, and it's never been presented. So it was never about opening a gym. Sure, we wanted to save our business, but what Frank and I witnessed was the very, very rapid and extreme erosion of American civil liberties under the guise of a health emergency, and that's not an America that I want to live in. You know, I'm proud to be a citizen of this great country, and so is Frank, and this is the greatest country on God's earth, and we're willing to go to whatever extreme that we have to protect and preserve it. And if that means that we have to fight until there's absolutely nothing left, then so be it, because it's not about a gym. The gym was merely the vessel. The fight is about preserving the American way of life, preserving freedom and liberty, and not giving in to this rapid expansion of government and this essentially hostile communist takeover of this country.
It feels very communist. A lot of it is very frightening. I think one of the things that has surprised me the most, and I want to get your take on this, is how quickly people just lay down and do whatever they're told to do, essentially, without any critical thinking. I mean, I think when I see people wearing masks in their cars alone, Ian, I'm just like, what planet are we living on that this is what people are doing? You can't rationally think about the fact you're the only person in a car. I don't have to ask who these people voted for. I'm pretty clear on that one. But as somebody that look, you are in the health industry, you understand the importance of a strong immune system. I look at what they're doing to our children and asking our kids now going back to school to wear masks. I have to tell you, I have a 1 and 3-year-old. I have never put masks on them. I will not do it. I think that children need a developed and healthy immune system. And if we got them masked up, it is not going to do anything but stunt that and be terrible for them in the future. They can't interact with kids in any reasonable way. You don't get cues, social cues from their faces. So you see all these things like these kids that are, playing basketball, full court basketball games in a mask. How bad is that for a body? At this point where we have people who have been vaccinated, those that are nervous about getting COVID, and they're vaccinated, and the people that were most susceptible to this and getting, into a hospital or possibly dying from it are now safe. So what are we doing to these kids? How bad is it to breathe in with a mask on while you're working out, while you're exercising?
I mean, it runs contrary to everything about your body, whether you're a believer in God or whether you think that we're highly evolved monkeys, it doesn't matter. The point is that your body is the most beautifully designed biological machine that you could possibly even witness. And everything has a purpose, and your immune system has a purpose, and it also runs a certain way. And you don't teach your body how to fight things off by isolating it in a bubble and going home and sterilizing the world around you and living in fear. You know, your immune system is no different than computer software. It needs updates. And touching doorknobs and shaking hands and being in crowded places, that's how your immune system learns to defend itself. You know, every single day for our entire lives, we have been running into bacteria and viruses, and all of a sudden they took COVID and they cranked up the fear and the panic on it to an extreme level. And they've turned half of the country and half of the world into a bunch of germaphobes who are so emotional that they've lost the ability to critical think. And then you see things like what you're doing to children. And it's not only bad for your health to be breathing in waste product. You know, there's a reason that you can breathe outward and you can breathe and push stuff away from you, because that is essentially trash that your body has gotten rid of. That's the whole reason you're expelling it. But when you have a cloth face covering, especially for prolonged periods of time, while a kid is sitting in school every day or somebody's at work for 8 hours, and you're just breathing in this essentially exhaust from your body, it's terrible for you. And that doesn't even go into the psychological effects of this.
Right. Yeah,
they've scarred children now and people, and they've trained them to be afraid of one another. And it's all based on this visualization. You know, if you take that away, you wouldn't even know that there's a virus around. But it's this constant reminder that we're supposed to be afraid of one another, and we're supposed to stay away from one another. And humans are the opposite. We are social creatures. We thrive in these settings, especially children.
Yeah.
So I think that's nothing short of child abuse, to be honest.
Well, my favorite thing is I was out on a bike ride this weekend, and I have a road bike. I mean, I'm riding like 20, 25 miles an hour. I'm going pretty fast. I'm approaching this couple. We're outside. These people are probably 15, 20 feet away from me at like the closest point I see as I'm approaching. The guy's like putting his mask up. I was just gonna be like, sir, I am not gonna transfer COVID to you, but
you're gonna
whatever.
do a drive-by transmission.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna like throw it on him, but you know, neither here nor there. Look, I think that what you've done, obviously it's been really challenging for you. Obviously, this is something that, as you said, is much bigger than the gym, but you really have become sort of a beacon of hope and inspiration, I think, to a lot of people out there who have found some of these lockdown rules so egregious and as you're saying, such a violation of our constitutional rights. I read one of your posts the other day. You posted something on Instagram, and you said that you went in a store, you weren't wearing a mask, and the only other person in there, maybe it was a video you posted, that didn't have a mask on, was wearing an Atilis Gym t-shirt. Is that right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, we've been able to sustain ourselves. Obviously, they stripped our business license in the process of reopening. So we haven't charged anybody in over a year now. But we stay alive through donations, but also through merchandise sales. You know, it started out, people wanted to help out, and they, one of the ways they wanted to help is, hey, do you guys sell merchandise? And next thing you know, we're basically a full-blown clothing store. So the shirts have gone out to all 50 states several times over. We've actually sent shirts to 16 countries around the world. Wow. And they've become like a signal. You kind of know what this other person is all about when you see one of the shirts on, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm walking through Home Depot and I see a guy with a mask on, and he turns around and he's wearing the same shirt I am, just in a different color, and it's cool because you know you're in good company when you see that.
Well, I got to get my hands on one of these T-shirts. I will wear it proudly. Believe me.
I'll make sure I send you one out.
and I would love to come work out at your gym sometime. Look, the reality is we're coming out of, I think, hopefully, all of this craziness. We're kind of feeling like things are going in the right direction and getting back to normal. What do you think the New Jersey government needs to do that would actually help small business owners and residents of your state at this point? What can they do? What should they be doing to help you guys?
If Governor Murphy had any sense about him, he would lift all restrictions immediately. He would follow in the footsteps of what Ron DeSantis and Governor Greg Abbott and the governor of South Dakota did from the get-go, and realize that small business never was the problem. And I think that they know that deep down. Governor Murphy here has the worst nursing home situation in the country, and he's continuously used small business as a scapegoat as to why our numbers are so bad, when in reality, upwards of 50% of our deaths are actually in the nursing home. So if he had any sense about him, he would immediately lift restrictions and allow business to start to rebound. Because the fact of the matter is that small business all around the country are still hanging on by a thread. You know, you have especially industries like the restaurant industry and stuff who have been throttled by capacity restrictions and stuff like that. And it is not fair. And the ball is moving down the court, and we are returning to normal. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of ground lost in the way of small businesses and in people's wallets. And it's time to end the charade. Nobody's buying it anymore. Even the people that were all in before. You know, we have new people walk into the gym every day who are identify, you know, politically as someone on the left, typically more moderate thinking liberals. And they'll say it. They say, you know, we've had enough of this. Like this.
At this point, my gosh, so much of what has gone on, you've got to kind of question some of this and say, is this necessary? Is this rational? Does this make any sort of sense? So I'm thrilled to hear that. I feel like every day there are probably more people that, thank goodness, take a look at what is going on in this country and they say, this isn't what I was sold. This is not, you know, the feel-good, you know, leftist dream and utopia. Remember the summer of love last year? All of this nonsense didn't work out the way that I was sold.
And
so maybe something's wrong here.
And that's typical of their policies. You know, they sound really good, and they always have the media on their side to make them sound better than they are. But when these things are put into practice, they're just not workable. And that's the difference. Is Americans need to start thinking critically and rationally and remove the emotion from everything. The emotion, regardless of what side you're on or how you think politically, politics is about critical thinking and rational thinking. It's about what works and what doesn't and what is best for everybody. And these policies are not best for everybody. They were best for a very, very small portion of the population. And people were tricked. People were tricked into thinking they were doing the right thing, that they were being good citizens. And I think everybody was at one point. And a lot of people woke up early, and now you're seeing the rest of the people start to realize that this wasn't what it was made out to be in the beginning, and that they were fooled. You know, they were bamboozled, mm-hmm. and that's okay. It's okay to realize that, and I think a lot of people are coming to terms with that because it's starting to hit home everywhere. You know, it affected small business first. But now it's starting to seep into other parts of the economy, and you see everything that was built over the past 4 years with our roaring American economy start to come unraveled in just 100 days. And you know, it's very quiet on the left now.
Isn't it interesting?
There's just not a whole lot to be proud of right now.
I don't know about you. I could sure go for a couple of mean tweets and low gas prices, security on our southern border, inflation lower, the cost of things not skyrocketing, supporting our allies overseas. I don't know. The mean tweets, were they really that bad, folks? I mean, you know.
The fact of the matter is that people are realizing that very quickly, I think, that no matter how much you may have disagreed with the personality of President Trump, the policies are what is important in politics. You know, that's what matters. And now people are seeing that all the warm-hearted virtue signaling tweets don't really amount to anything when your dollars aren't worth anything, when there's no gas, when you're predicting 1 million jobs and only coming within 20% of that. You know, the list can go on and on and on, but it's very hard to ignore the truth at this point. And the truth is that we're heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah, well, thank goodness we have people like you at Atilis Gym in Belmar, New Jersey. Look, you guys are doing great stuff there. Keep it up. You have a legal defense fund. People can donate to you. People could buy your merchandise, which I will do as well to support the cause. So I want to just say thank you. Thanks for fighting the good fight. Thanks for standing up for all of our freedoms, because it really does take people like you sometimes, Ian, to wake others up, to make people say, wait a minute, what has happened? Maybe doesn't feel right. It hasn't felt right, but this guy's onto something. So thanks to you and your partner. And as always, I want to say thank you for joining us here on The Right View. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, we're going to see you at the gym soon. For everybody at home, thanks as always for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.